Okay, this one is going to be an interesting one for both of us here. This is one of those albums that's like really hard to talk about the music, so this is going to be a journey for both. With that being said, let's dive into her. Ontology of Nought by Ingurgitating Oblivion. I have been sorely lacking in my deep metal. Like, I've covered a lot of pop on my channel so far, a lot of prog, but I feel like this year I haven't really given the good dues of some really dark, guttural, brutal, annihilating, just gnarly metal. And so, yeah, I've got a couple more coming your way, but for now, let's talk about Ingurgitating Oblivion. And like right from the get-go, you kind of know what kind of music you're going to be getting into, right? Like a band called Ingurgitating Oblivion. You're going to get some gnarly sounds. And this is their third studio record, coming back into professional mode here. They are from Berlin, Germany. This is a duo of sorts. We got one of the main guitarists and engineers of Norbert Mueller, I believe, and vocalist, guitarist, and composer Florian Engelk. I am so sorry if I mispronounced those names. That is how I do. This record is a beast, if you didn't already anticipate. And if you are a fan of the band, you pretty much know what you're going to get into. We got an hour and 13 minutes worth of music across 5 tracks. So right there, I was intrigued. Hearing that we had well over an hour's worth of music, but they only span 5 tracks. Ooh, I'm getting something good. These track titles as well are just apprehensible. You know, you've got Uncreation's Whirling Loom You Ply with Crippling Fingers being the first track, clocking in at 14 and a half minutes. You've got To Weave the Tapestry of Nought at 18 and a half minutes. The Blossoms of Your Tomorrow Shall Unfold in My Heart at 11 minutes. Least I Should Perish with Travel. F8 and Wary As My Knees Refuse to Bear Me Thither at 10 minutes. And finally, the final track at The Barren Earth Oozes Blood and Shakes and Moans to Drink Her Children's Gore at 18 minutes and 18 seconds. Yeah. This album is a beast, to say the very least. This is the kind of metal music that I absolutely love, and adore. It challenges the listener. There are so many moments on this record that I have to take a step back and be like, is there actual music being played, or is this just noise? And if struck in the right mood, I absolutely love this. This is channeling that experimental, extreme death metal that, I don't know, there's something so primal in me that just immediately latches on and connects with it. It's that signal to noise, that chaotic resolution, the uncertainty and the found that really blends this tapestry of brilliance. Yes, there are moments on here that the uninitiative and the individuals that don't necessarily appreciate this kind of music would just think, well, this isn't music, this is just noise. And they're not necessarily wrong, but it's what you do with it that matters. You could just be throwing your instruments against the wall and then recording whatever sounds they make, and some people would consider that art, but I wouldn't necessarily consider it music. This has that musical flair that I still particularly love, especially within this experimental, very brutal tech death metal. The screams and the growling and the uncertainty about it all. This is what I listen to when I feel lost and I feel uncertain, because there's really no release. There's a lot of tension and a lot of buildups, and it feels as if the coils are tightening and you're waiting for that release, but it never really hits. This is kind of that intense horror movie where that there's this threatening entity. There's this threatening presence that is made itself known, but there's never that comedic release of that, oh, thank God it's over. Because of the length, because of the track's scope, You're always on edge. You're always kind of being held in place. And for some, this would be torture. For some, this is the absolute nightmare of music. But for someone like me that loves this challenging, this breaking of the mold, this like deconstruction of what is perceived to be music, to really kind of shift through and see where those moments of brilliance and beauty are, this is where I really gravitate and are attracted to this music. There's something that is reflected in this music to me. This is like a very complex, abstract painting where you get more out of it the more you bring to it. And I absolutely love that. There's so many moments on here where I feel it's like this big mirror is being felt on here. There are moments of longevity, I think, might be the better word for it, that even though it's still that tightening of the coils, it's not beating you over the head with this relentless barragement of sounds. There's that motif that is found within the guitars. There's this theme that's found within the vocal works. There are these moments of clarity, of wandering the wilderness and coming to this really beautiful moment. And they are scattered throughout the runtime of this record, but this record really does make you work for those moments. So for me, I find the best way to ingest this record is late at night, pair of headphones, and like a really dense work of literature. I read a lot of like really dense, like Lovecraftian horror. I generally don't read Lovecraft himself, but like his influences, his contemporaries, some of those who he has inspired. I will read those works while listening to this music, and it provides just the perfect soundscapes for that, the perfect soundtrack for that. I will also just listen to this music as I am going through some meditations, because I like to meditate with music. And this really helps ground me when I have just a very busy head and I need something to fill that void that is found within these two ears sometimes. So yeah, I think sitting down and like talking about this album track by track or music by music, it does this album a disservice, because really the best way to listen to this is front to back if you have the inkling to listen to it. Because again, this one is coming at you with really big warning signs. This has a very big proceed with caution moniker. But if you're a fan of this style of experimental progressive death metal, I think you'll be very rewarded with this. So I think all that being said, and in the end, I will say Ontology of Nought by Ingurgitating Oblivion is still an album that I absolutely love with my whole heart. I really do think that this is the band's best work, even though I still love those first two records. I think this has that meaty aspect, and they're really pushing the boundaries of their technicality, their proficiencies, and, it's really challenging both them and us within this. But if you are able to meet that challenge, it is an extremely rewarding listen. So yeah, I think you'll know immediately within the first like 2 or 3 minutes of this record whether or not this is an album that's made for you. I knew right away that this was an album that was made for me, so I was just like, yes, please, more. But I also know that this is an acquired taste. This is an album that you have to kind of work up to, and it is an album that is very rewarding if you give it the time to do so. So, yeah, that's my thought of Ontology of Nought from Ingurgitating Oblivion. What did you guys think about this record? Did you love it? Did you hate it? Please let me know by commenting down below. And I think that's where I'm going to leave you for today. So, thank you all so much for watching. As always, you guys are definitely the best. And until next time, notes out.